Good evening, everybody. Welcome back. Some of you might know that this is our final artist talk of the summer. I know many of you have attended multiple, if not every single one of the online artist talks we've hosted since March. Myself and the rest of the team we're thankful for your support and the contributions you make continually to these conversations and this community, especially in the digital space while we can't be together in person. So thank you for being here. First, and I think especially since much of tonight's conversation is going to involve the land around us, the land that we inhabit, wherever we might be, I'd like to offer an acknowledgement of the Indigenous people whose land we occupy in Concord, the people of the Nipmuc, Massachusetts, Wampanoag, and Pawtucket, to name a few. A few housekeeping notes before we get started. For those of you who have been laying in wait for the 22nd annual Roddy Juried exhibition, we are going to be accepting submissions shortly. You can learn more about Roddy. You can read the full prospectus at concordart.org/Roddy. More info soon. Make sure you subscribe to our newsletter for that. Second, we have an excellent workshop starting on Monday with none other than Ying Li, plein air painting with Ying Li. There's still time to register for that. If you're interested, you can shoot me an email or you can head to concordart.org/Ying Li. And last, as always, put any questions, comments that arise for you throughout the talk in the chat at any point, and we'll make a note of them and get to as many as we can during Q&A. So tonight, I'm very pleased to introduce someone I've had the distinct pleasure of getting to know these past few months as we've organized this talk and the workshop. Ying Li is the Phyllis Koshland Professor of Fine Arts and Department Chair at Haverford College. Her work has been exhibited in solo and group exhibitions internationally, and her Pandemic Paintings series has received wide acclaim for their ecstatic color and texture-rich canvases. She's joined by Charles Dean, prolific gardener and director of Rosyendpost Gallery, a pop-up gallery space in Greenport, New York. Ying and Charles have heard an excellent presentation tonight, not only about painting, but about gardens and nature and the relationship held by all three. So without any further ado, I'd like to welcome Charles Dean and Ying Li. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Hello, everybody. First, I want to say I can't wait to be in person next week at the center, just paint together. It's a thing, I've been looking forward and, through the whole pandemic. And I want to thank Marisa and thank Kate for having me give me this opportunity to do this workshop. And I wanted to thank Charles for joining us. And we have so much to talk about since we just had a show together at beautiful Greenport. And
it was a beautiful show. It was a combination of Ying's paintings and Lois Dodd, who's a real good friend of Ying's and someone I know and like a lot myself. And interestingly enough, in conjunction with this talk, is that all the paintings in the show were all painted plein air. It was a 100% plein air exhibition. It was beautiful.
Yeah, and how about we just get started? Get to the work, and we just go from there. Marisa, can we just start the?
Yes, I'm going to grab the slideshow. I'll share my screen and then we will be off and running.
Great. Also want to say, if anybody who have questions, you can just chip in or maybe wait until the end. So we just, go through it. Also, if any students who will be in the workshop next week, if you have any questions, you know, can just use this opportunity. Also, you have my email. You can just email me directly.
So you guys are good to go whenever you're ready to start.
Great, let's go.
Sorry, one moment. Okay, here we are.
This talk is, we are going to focus on plein air and include both painting and the gardening. And these both art forms done outdoor. And there's so much in common. And you know, I'm just so very, very happy to have Charles here make this conversation, you know, between this, you know, these two forms. And also I know around Concord, you know, there are beautiful, you know, gardens, and that will be fun to explore that part too during the workshop.
Gardens are kind of a natural place for plein air painting because good gardens have structure. I mean, you know, a good garden has structure. You have vistas, you have a lot of textures, different textures, you have a lot of different colors. Even if it's all green, there can be 100 greens. So it's a, you know, I think it's kind of a wonderful place to paint outdoors in a garden because there's just, in a good garden, there's just a lot there. And it should be an inspiration to painters, and it is.
Yeah, let's get going. And here we just have a couple of samples of my recent artwork. This is one painting done in Telluride in Colorado. I travel to paint. I try to get to many places I can.
Ying, was that one of the reasons that you actually have become so involved in plein air? Because I know some of your earlier work, like, you know, 30 years ago, a lot of it was still lifes in your apartment, or it was portraits of people. But it was when you started getting these residencies and, you know, all around the world that you started, you know, taking your painting canvases with you and painting outdoors. Was that the inspiration for?
Yeah, that's actually, I will talk about that when we get a little further. You know, I come from China 30 some years ago. And in China, we didn't have much ability to travel during that time. And also, we trained in a very strict manner and the style, and you know, to meet political requirements. And let's get going. Let's get going the slides. Okay, it gets yeah.
So this is you.
Yeah. Yeah, here we come to my very early work. This is my college thesis exhibition work. And this piece didn't get passed because didn't meet political requirements. And the criticism is the girl in the yellow dress looked too bourgeois. And the question they gave to me was, how could somebody look like that to go to work? And they asked me to change. I didn't, because actually that's the, you know, the character in the whole painting, you know, my favorite one. And I thought she really, you know, present the light and the hope and the beauty. So I submit a different piece for the exhibition. Let's get going. Yeah, here we'll come to the landscape. I got a chance to teach the summer school in Italy. At the time, I just started to teach at Haverford College, and Haverford College has a beautiful campus. That's sort of got me to think about doing outdoor work. Before that, I was in New York, and I just painted in the studio, semi-abstract, still life settings and the figures and the compositions. And so when I went to the school, when I started to teach at International School of Art in Umbria, I had an agenda. I thought, I would keep doing my kind of semi-abstract work, push even further to the abstract direction. But the landscape there sort of just grabbed me, and it was so powerful, you just cannot ignore. I think many people here being Italy, it's a breathtaking. When the first time I got on that patio at the school, I thought, wow, I have to pin this and see what I can do with this. And because the school is saturated in very high medieval town, and they're looking down the whole valley, so the space is just incredible. And the sky, feels like the sky was closer than the land under that. You can sense from this piece. Next one. And then, since then, I have done many artist residence. I choose the place I want to paint. This is Fogo Island in Newfoundland. Next. And it's a very, very harsh weather and tough life. But people there, they painted the house in all different kind of colors, and they couldn't grow, the tree couldn't grow there. And but in the summertime, every house had this little patch of a green grass. It was so green, that little piece of a grass, and the way they take care of it is just amazing. And I have just so much, affection to that place. Next one. This is a Cranberry Island in Maine. This is their town dock, and I love the structure, somewhere between stable and unstable. Also, how the wood pieces sort of chipped together is very much like a Chinese calligraphic strokes in the lines. Okay, next one. And from water to different water, this is a St. Mary College, St. Mary City in Maryland. It was a funny story. I got there from Italy. I still had so much Italian landscape in my head. And so when I got there, I couldn't see anything. I started, what am I going to paint? I didn't feel anything. And then I got on my bike, and I just rode around. Then I just happened, saw this little duplicate of 17th century trading vessel, docked, just by the water. It's like a signal to me. It's like, here I am. So I started painting that boat, and I spent a whole month painted that boat. I did like 40 some paintings of that boat. Next one. And from one boat to another, this is Chautauqua Lake. I taught at the Chautauqua Institute, the art school, for 10 summers. Every summer, I went back to the same spot to paint that ferry. It was a steamboat from Mississippi River. Somebody, got it to the Chautauqua Lake and converted it into this ferry. And I still can hear, the horn making this beautiful sound, hovering over the lake. This is one of the painting. Okay, next one. Yeah, this is another one. This is the later one. It's more about that whole atmosphere and the lake and the movement. Okay, next one. This is in Oaxaca in Spain. Next one. Newfoundland in Switzerland. This was also extraordinary experience. It was a very, very high, in the Alps, and looking down just an enormous field of peaks and the mountains. Then the cloud come, and so the entire landscape, the form, the palette, and the temperature just totally changed. And so, what you can do, be patient. And the fog might, pass, might not. Actually, one day, the whole time we waited for, a couple of hours, and just everything in the fog, couldn't see anything. So we came back next day. Okay, next one. Yeah, I was painting. It was so windy, and one painting just got blown away.
Is that you? Is that you on the?
Yeah, I was painting there. I had to type myself because it was just crazy. Everything's just like the wind. This is the only building there, people can get hot coffee. Okay, next one. I was very happy with all these junks in the bags of the paint and the rags and the stuff. Next. We are at, this is a Telluride in Colorado. It's another amazing place. I've been teaching workshops there for, gosh, 5-6 times, and I just couldn't get enough. Those places, I asked myself why I wanted to go, travel. It's not easy to get there, and then you have to schlep everything, and it was so costly, and also time consuming. But every place is like a it's like a person, they tell you something very special and one of the kind. And if you can find it, that's the most thrilling feeling you can get. And they all have a very different kind of formation, and the palette, and the sky looks so different, and the quality of the light is so different from place to place. Also, the place really affect me, the way I apply paint, how I paint, and the speed. Okay, next one. This is Portugal, yeah, this is quite a recent piece. And you can see, calligraphic kind of approach, just more and more clear in the work.
I think some of this calligraphy comes out of you're using the tubes to actually apply the paint right from the tube, which
Yeah,
is a really clear, colorful line without it is like a drawing. Parts of it are like a drawing. I mean, which I think comes out of your expertise in Chinese calligraphy. I know you taught it and you've studied it.
yeah. I
Really,
study.
It's a wonderful aspect of this of painting. This seems like the last 5 or 6 years you've started using this more.
Yeah, it's interesting because at the beginning I kind of resented to do it because I thought, plans, shapes, and that's how I was taught. And but then I work on the painting, one painting for long session. For example, I started like very early in the morning, let's say, somewhere like at 8 o'clock, and then I just work through, the light change and the time really doesn't affect me that much. I can just work a painting through because the painting sort of starts to carry its own, need. But because of the way of working, I like to make changes, and in a way, I think jazz, the music, really influenced me a lot. How to just be at the moment and take from what's there and go along with the changes and be improvisational. So the painting gets really muddy, and I remember my friend Stanley Lewis once said, he tried not to take the paint off, but keep adding on it. And so I thought, okay, let's try that. Then we got to the point, it's so muddy, what you can do, how you can get, clear kind of a, definition you need, and, also the color. Then I started to just use the tubes. And at the beginning, I was kind of hesitated, to go about. I thought, whoa, is this, doesn't seem kosher, But then, you just go for it. And so more and more, I just, I do that. But also, I try, especially now, because I sort of, I have kind of a sense how to do it in a way, but then, I tell myself, no, you can't be comfortable with that, so I try to restrict myself, I use it when I have to, or, just really for the need, not for the sake of using it.
Right.
Yeah. Next one.
Ying, there are 2 quick questions before I advance.
Okay.
What are the size of the paintings, and are they oil?
These are all oils, and the size is somewhere between 20, 24, and some smaller. There are a few bigger ones. Really depends on where I was, if I can ship them. And the 20 by 24 is the biggest size I can fit in my suitcase. The suitcase I found, can fit, and also I can check in. So that's pretty much the size. And the tricky part is really packing the wet paint. That's that's like a totally another game. Yeah, we can we can talk about that at the workshop. Okay, next one.
Okay. For the rest of the folks, I'm going to ask the other questions towards the end. I just wanted to get those two quick ones out of the way.
Great. Yeah, this is Rosendale, upstate. This is a one-shot painting. My boyfriend Conrad was teaching a workshop. He's a jazz musician, and he was teaching workshop somewhere at Tanglewood, and he dropped me at this place. He thought, oh, he sort of he just did a little research online. He thought this place sounds kind of interesting. It has these old trestle, and so he dropped me somewhere like 9 o'clock. Then he took off, and I just stayed there nonstop, and all the way through. I think he came back somewhere like 7 o'clock, and so that's the result for all this hours putting paint and manipulate it, goes this way, that way. I like this painting. It feels like a really transformed in terms of the color arrangement, also the whole atmosphere. Okay, next one. This is American Academy in Rome. I did this painting 3 years ago at their garden. Actually, I painted that garden. I was thinking about Charles' garden in Orient, in Long Island, because I painted in Charles' garden for a few times. So I start to see the gardens in a different way. And this is the entrance, to that garden. Okay, next one. Yeah, this is one of the garden paintings there. All this kind of exotic color and, shapes. There's something, very, very kind of seductive about it. Okay, next one. This is a garden in Groningen in Netherlands, the Prince Garden.
Well, this was unusual for for the slideshow. This is a watercolor, right?
Yep, exactly. It's a watercolor, and you can see still some of the very beginning, the wash, and right. Then I start to build up. Yeah, this piece is really built up a lot. Always I think the material is a tool. The material is to give you the possibility to do whatever you can do. So when I think that way, I just think, okay, how to make the watercolor not look just like a watercolor, so, that end up like this. Okay, next one. Here it comes. Charles, I'm gonna hand it to you.
Well, this is the center patio of my garden, where Ying has number of times painted. In fact, I'm sitting behind me is one painting that she did in my garden, but I'm looking over at other walls. I have quite a few, and so I said one time, this garden is really green. Generally, I do have flowers, but there's a lot of green. And one time Ying said, "Well, I see things that other people don't see." So she finds color, and she finds color even in the green. But it's a garden that's been going on. I've been working on it for like it's 38 years old now, and it's continually a work in progress. It never is finished. And there's a lot of exotic trees. On the left, there's a monkey puzzle tree, and there are the magnolia in the middle is a very unusual magnolia silver parasol. We have Chinese fig hazel. There's Chinese spruce. Actually, a lot of Chinese plants in my garden. I said, Ying, you should feel really at home in this garden. There's so much from China. But
Charles, can I interrupt?
Yeah.
Could you mention the size of this garden? Because every time I see it, I've seen it for so many times. Just in that such a small area, you create this world that's just like totally transformed. That feels like in different planet. Yeah.
It's 4/10 of an acre. The whole property is. It's not a very large lot, but there is no lawn. I mean, it's solid plants. I mean, and a small flagstone patio and long walkways. But it's very densely planted. Probably too dense at times, but I do have to do a lot of pruning and thinning out. But it's not very large, but I would do it myself. So it seems large to me. It's a lot of work. Is there a next one? Is there another one? Yeah, this is part of the garden. It's a weeping buddleia. The purple flowered shrub is a weeping buddleia. There's a weeping Alaska cedar in the back. There's a hibiscus, daylilies, crepe myrtle. Actually, all these plants, every one of these plants is hardy in the garden. It just creates a look of kind of tropical profusion because it's, like I say, it's dense and it's, you feel like you're in a jungle, but every one of those plants is hardy. They all live every year. They come back every year.
I thought the amazing thing about this garden, the way you put things together, they look just so, like they've been together forever. But at the same time, they're so just full of a surprise. And also, I think this is a vertical garden. There's so many layers, going into the air and the textures and the different, different shapes. And
these are things we think about, especially texture of leaves, because mainly gardens are leaves. I mean, texture is hugely important. And everything from really small little ground covers all the way up to towering trees. It's there's layers and layers and layers. And it's also, so that's one of the things. You have to also think about vistas. You have to think about color combinations with the flowers so they don't clash horribly. And I also have a lot of collections. I have like huge numbers of epimediums. There's 8 magnolia trees. There are 50 types of daffodils. There's, I have like 20 types of epimediums. And about 50 kinds of hostas. And to integrate these collections into a garden, so it's not just rows of the same plants to show them off, but to have them look like they belong, is part of the fun of creating this kind of what looks like a natural world, but it's all a creation. It's like your paintings, the natural world is what's inspiring you, but the painting becomes something that's totally, transformed into a work of art. And a garden is really an attempt to create kind of a created Eden or a created paradise. You never really succeed completely, but that's the goal, is to create something that you think is really wonderful. And it can never happen this way in nature. I mean, nature is gorgeous, but I mean, this is too artificial. There's just too many things from all over the world.
Let's go to the next.
Charles, quick question for you. What hardiness zone are you in?
Zone 7, 7B. I'm in Orient, New York, at the very end of Long Island, right across from the sound from Connecticut. This is well, there is art in the garden. This is in the center is a sculpture by my sister, who is a very wonderful ceramic artist, and it's one of her high-fired sculptures. And on the right, there's those little arches. There's a kind of a red arch and a silver arch. There's a lot of those in the garden. They were commissioned from Arden Scott, who's a sculptor who lives in Greenport. And they were designed and installed for supports for the rose bushes. And nice. They work beautifully to support the roses, but in the winter, when the roses are lost their leaves and the garden is pretty much bare, because most of the plants in my garden are perennials and they die to the ground in the winter. These beautiful sculptures are standing all winter, and the snow falls on them, and they're colorful, and they make a great winter scene. I think sculpture is so important in the garden. I mean, and it's, you've got to, I think it's important to make a really wonderful garden. You've got to be careful with that the sculpture is not kitschy or something, but sculpture can add so much to a garden. And I now I can't even imagine my garden without these sculptures in it. I have 4 of my sisters and 3 of Arden's.
Okay, keep going.
Well, there you are. You're in my garden. This is right at my back porch. And you're painting, at this point, you're painting the Prince of Orange philodendron.
Next painting, actually.
Yeah.
Next slide.
Yeah, actually, yeah, it's a beautiful painting. A really good friend of mine and a friend of Ying's now who lives in Orient has purchased this painting. It's just, in fact, when he saw the painting at a show that I had in my garage, a show of your work, Ying's work, he said, you know, that so much reminds me of Milton Resnick. And it kind of started a conversation with you and Bill about Milton Resnick and how much you like him. And I see you're sitting in front of a Milton Resnick painting right behind you.
Yeah, I have the fortune to have 2 Resnicks, live here.
Right. Yeah, this is a beautiful painting. But this was one of the many that Ying's painted in my garden. I love those paintings. This one's in my garden too. This was the peony. I have a lot of peonies, and this is the really opulent high moment in the peony bloom, and you captured it. It's beautiful. I always thought of Sargent when I see this.
Keep going.
And that's in the garden too. This is a rose growing in a pot that is sitting on a chair in the garden, and that's also, this is also in my garden. It's a dense garden. There's a lot of stuff in it, so and Ying captures that in her paintings. These paintings are chock-a block full of information. I mean, it's out there.
I think it's the interesting thing about painting in the garden. You can have that like a kind of a whole structure, and but there's so many hidden spots, the little pockets, just like little jewel treasure, pockets, and also the surprising colors, some kind of a brilliant neon colors. And so it's a kind of it's interesting to have that, how to say that, while you do landscape painting, and then you have something like this, it's already structured, and the color sort of has a kind of a ordered, but at the same time it's just full of a surprise. It's a nice change from painting big deep space.
Right. It's very you're very close to it in my garden. I mean, some gardens are not. I mean, some English gardens you're looking out over acres of property. You could be looking at enormous trees and great distances. But my garden, it's you're pretty up close with the foliage and the flowers and the branches and the leaves. You don't get a lot of distance. There are a few vistas in my garden, but they're and I value them, but they're not that many. There aren't that many really.
Next.
As you can see, there it is. It's all right in your face. That's a Virginia magnolia on the right. That's my house with the garden all around it, which
that's a quick little painting.
Yeah. When Ying was painting my garden, and I mean, like within an hour or so, you painted that. I mean, it seemed like it was that short a time. It's
relatively, very, very quick.
Relatively quick. And that's the garden all around. That's my house, which was built in 1700, and that's the garden around the house. I absolutely love this painting. It's hanging in my living room. It's It also reminds me a little bit of Cezanne with the structure of the house being kind of, you know, leaning away from you, that perspective. It's a beautiful painting. And lots of, look at all this white you left. You've left so much canvas, negative space at the bottom of the and left. There's just that really makes that painting so lively and bright. It's a sunny day, obviously, but that white is valuable in creating that light and air.
It's interesting, you know, think about the, you know, the range you can have from the bare canvas to all the layers you build up. You know, I like to have a, you know, that whole range, you know, in the way, you know, it feels like you can travel in it and come out and then, you know, go into the caves, then, you know, come out to the, you know, bare sky.
Many of your canvases that have, you know, really deep impasto and really heavy paint still have areas that are almost either canvas or very lightly painted. I mean, you do have a lot of variety. Even the heaviest paintings, you generally have some relief.
Okay, keep going. Thank you, Charles.
So this
go ahead.
This was a show we had in my garage. I used to have shows in my garage here in Orient, which were lots of fun. It's a beautiful old garage that we painted the walls white, and it looked a little bit like a gallery. And so Ying brought out paintings of the garden, and the garage is in the garden. So it was really a wonderful show. This was about 3 years ago, I guess.
Yeah.
2 or 3 years ago, before the pandemic.
Yep, keep going.
Oh, there's the garage. Okay, that's that was her show in the garage, and that's the garden.
That's Charles, that's the sweetest space I ever showed. I adore it. You know, it's just amazing. It feels like the artwork live in the, you know, in where they come from. You know, it's like a go back to the womb.
The garage is still there, Ying. We'll have to do another one.
I know. I just adore that, you know, that space. Okay, keep going.
Okay, well, we've actually kind of moved the garage, not moved the garage, but the shows. We've moved to Greenport, to a gallery we're calling Rosyendpost, which is an anagram for oyster ponds, because oyster ponds was originally the name of Orient. And this is the gallery where Ying and Lois had their show the last few weeks. We had a show of plein air paintings of Lois, Dodd, and Ying Li. And it was really a wonderful show because I guess partially the fact that they were all plein air really gave a unity to the show. But they paint so differently. Ying and Lois have such different paint handling. Lois is very flat, very, you know, a very flat surface, and Ying's is very textured. And yet it seemed like they worked well together. But there was so much contrast, not only in the textures, but Lois.
Let's go to the next so that we can see the work.
Lois basically.
Next one.
Lois basically, okay, this is good. Lois basically has shapes and kind of fills them in. I mean, like the road in this painting, or the yellow in the tree, or the blue sky. It's kind of like that. The blue sky is painted blue. Ying's, Ying does not define an area and fill it in. She's creating the painting by strokes, by brush strokes or lines, and they just build up. There's a whole different way of approaching it. And this made for such an interesting show to see these two mature women at the top of their game together. It was really a fantastic show.
Yeah, actually, I admire Lois' work for decades. And this show, you know, I'm just like honored, you know, to put my work next to hers. her work, to me, it's like a poet using language. It's so distilled and so transformed and so full of surprise. And also the abstract quality, the geometry, the clarity in the work, it's just stunning. I don't see, the representation of the place and the how that transformed into this very abstract work. It's just it's a miracle. And also she's just like so economical. I tried to pin like that. I just couldn't do. I thought maybe when I'm get older, maybe I could reach a little closer to that kind of a clarity. For me, it's every painting is kind of like a struggle, and I have no idea where to end, for good or.
Yeah, well, again, you give yourself credit. This red tree, there is so much clarity there. You look at that painting.
Yeah, get to the certain point. I just have to sort of go through the struggle and all kind of uncertainty. Sort of get to some point.
Lois struggles with hers too. She doesn't just paint those two.
I painted with Lois. She has a vision. She just see it and then she put it down. Okay. It's quite amazing.
On this yellow tree, she saw those 3 shadows in that road in the background, and these 2 shadows on the right corner. Those 5 shadows are just fabulous in that painting. I mean, they're just like they really structure it incredibly.
Let's see next. There are a couple of more.
Oh yeah. These are very interesting together. These 3, 2 of Lois's and yours, because this space going back into your Ascona Rain painting, that space going back into the distance is really very similar to the one in this Vermont Road painting of Lois. The structure it is. And even also in the Cove painting, the quarry painting, this kind of space going back to that sunlit face of the quarry. I love these 3 hanging together. This was an idea that Gary Garrels came up with. I mean, Gary decided to put these 3 together. He's a curator who's part of this gallery we're doing. And it was his idea to put these 3 together. And I just think these were brilliant together. Beautiful.
The show just hang gorgeous. Just gorgeously hang. Oh, this is Lois's yard.
Your painting of it though.
Yeah, I painted one of the trips. This is her yards at Blairstown in New Jersey. Okay, we are at the pandemic. You can see this. We just jump, to the current, and this is the very beginning of a pandemic. I think everybody remember. On the shelf is like the toilet paper and the sanitizer and it's just like you couldn't find them. Something so kind of mundane, and we have it all the time. Become like so important, and I painted a bunch of these clinics, and this is a watercolor. Okay, keep going. And then I painted through pandemic on the campus of Haverford. I felt so very lucky, to have that amazing a place. It's like live in the garden, Charles.
Well, it is. Actually, Haverford is a arboretum. I mean, it originally was. I mean, it's a very important part of the campus.
And yeah,
What's so cool, Ying, is that because you didn't have to fly to, Palm Beach or Telluride or Vermont or Newfoundland or Europe, you could just get these large canvases and paint at a size you've never really painted plein air, this size. So these are such amazing, beautiful paintings that you made out of the necessity.
Also, I can drag the big easel to hold, the size.
Right, and your boyfriend's so tall, he could like carry it all.
He just drag.
He's taller than I am.
Conrad says he's the schlepper.
Right. But I think that was great though. That was so wonderful that in this pandemic, when things really, a lot of people were finding it so hard to accomplish things they wanted to in their lives, that you found this way of accomplishing something that you've never been able to do, paint plein air at 4 feet long canvases, which you never really tried to do before. It was fantastic.
In a way, I think the artist can take advantage of the time we have, and also because of the lockdown, you can't travel, so you just stay where you are, and what do you do? As artists, you work, and right. So, also, such a crazy time politically, and the pandemic, there's so much anxiety in the air. I feel, the painting really helped me, to go through, there's a crazy time. Okay, next one.
Ying, I just want to give you a time check. It's just about 7. Just so
okay.
You know.
Let's get going quick. Yeah. Yeah, this is peonies on campus. Actually, I was thinking of the peonies in Charles' garden.
It's a beauty. It's a beautiful painting.
Next one. The roses. Actually, this is just like, I didn't move my easel at all. I just moved my head, a little bit, to the other side. And here's another painting. Okay, next one. These are, it's about like a 50 inches cross, something like that. Yeah.
Oh yeah, over 4 feet.
Yeah, you can see, the setting there. I made quite a mess on the path, and in the normal time, I couldn't do this because of people passing all the time. That's another academic building, and but when I was painting, there's nobody, passed by the whole day, the whole time. Okay, next one. This is the only painting I finished indoor in the studio. Next one. This painting started like a pretty much at the beginning of the pandemic. I think somewhere like in the spring of 2000, and then I worked on it in the studio. I finished this spring. Next one.
How large is that one, Yang?
That's also somewhere 50 inches.
Really? Oh, it's
vertical.
A big one. It's a beautiful.
Yeah.
I haven't seen that one before. It's beautiful.
Yeah. Next one. Our duck pond, and it's amazing. I met so many people. The first thing that, when they know I teach at Haverford, I said, oh, I walked, by the duck pond on the natural trail. And this is, one of the painting I did of the pond. Okay, next one. Yeah, this is 2 paintings I put together. That's the pond. This one I finished in studio also in the period of more than a year. Okay, next one. That's also right by the pond in the fall season. And you can see the painting get more abstracted.
Is this as large as is this one also 50 inches?
Yeah.
Wow. Wow. These are impressive.
Yeah. Next one. Okay, I'm painting the neighborhood right at the other side of the backyard. The next one. Yep, you see that kind of a pale greenhouse there. I look at that house for years, and actually, the first time I painted it during the pandemic. Okay, next one. This is the painting after the, couple of watercolors I did. Also, that same spot. You can see, my mind is going somewhere else. Okay, next one. This painting I did at the election day of the tree in my backyard. You can see the explosion, the anxiety, and the crashing energy all over. Next one. Little bench on campus. Next. And a little empty net I found on the path. And orchid. It's an orchid on the porch. So it's sort of like a half still life, and has a lot of kind of a landscape space, arrangement. Okay, next one. Yeah, just a little quiet moment. My kind of a Chinese sensibility kick in once a while. Next one. And the watercolor, the little farm run by student on the campus. Watercolor is a wonderful, medium, easy to use. Also, it's a lot of possibilities of what you can do with it. And it's very good to use with a pastel together. Okay, next one. Fox passing right through the backyard and passing through the next neighbor's entrance. Next one. This is called the Haverford fox.
He's cute, adorable.
Okay, this is my friend Dave, who is on the facility at Haverford. This is the first time that the staff, just a limited staff, came back on campus in a very limited time. So I saw him, after like more than a year, and he was on this, with his little cart, driving through the campus, trying to take care of stuff with his mask on, and he got a little heavier, a little grayer. It was a heavy movement. Next one. This is a more recent painting. Also, it did right outside. Actually, last fall. When the maples, turn. So I think this is the last slide. Yeah.
Thank you both so much. I know we're in crunch for time. Do you think you can do a couple of questions before we wrap up?
Yeah, sure.
So there are some quick ones about more materially based. Let's see. So Are you using brushes, palette knives, squeezing on paint? What kind of paint? And how long do they take to dry? I'll throw all those at you. I think
Okay,
they
yeah,
need
we can
one
do this
answer.
all together.
Yeah.
These are all oil paint, and I use all the stuff you mentioned in the question, and plus, whatever sort of sometimes you just look for something, around, you can do something to break the silence or the cement of the paintings. So I use like a cardboard, I use the box for paint tubes, and I use branches, I use my hand. And but one thing, you make sure before you paint, you apply a couple of more layers of gesso to make the surface stronger. That's what I do. And the painting takes for the surface to seal, it's about 2-3 months. Actually, surprisingly fast, the surface can get caked, but it's still very soft, and that can takes at least a couple of years for the underpainting, for the inside, get hard. And I use paint whatever they have on sale, because I buy like a huge, quantity of them. And, I can't afford the old Holland, but, whatever the others, when they're on sale, I just get a bunch of them.
I have a question here for Charles.
Yep.
How does curating a garden change when the flowers begin to wither?
Well, I don't rely too much on flowers. I mean, I have a relatively shady garden because of so many large trees. So, those type of gardens where you have a lot of summer color, most of those type of flowers need sun, and I don't have a lot. So so when flowers are fading, if I can and it's necessary, I just deadhead them and go right on. I mean, it's like that was it. I mean, most things only flower a very short time anyway. Most plants only flower at most like a month, and then the other 11 months you have everything else. And so I kind of structure my garden around everything else, and the flowers are almost to me. I love when the roses bloom. I love it when the peonies bloom. I love it when the daffodils bloom. I love it when everything blooms. But and I just take that as a special thing. And then basically the garden is there all the time. Flowers come and go. I love flowers though, but I mean, I don't worry about it. I mean, when the peonies are finished, I deadhead them all, and I keep watering so that they'll do well next year. I'm a funny gardener.
Ying, you're so good at the liminal space between realism and abstraction. You started with realism. What drew you towards abstraction?
For me, it's very, very important to be out there. Give me something very specific to work with. And it's just Chinese has a saying, the nature and the people are one. That's what, there's sort of like the philosophy, but the painters, really dig that. You can see the paintings, the people's always like little tiny elements in the enormous natural setting, give you a sense, the scale and the relationship between these two. And, so to me, standing out there and see the changing and the smell of, whatever around, you hear all kinds of, sound in nature, and the light changes, and even your painting sort of got blew away, the easel collapse, you know, all these things, it's like a, you know, keep me on my toe. You know, I just feel it's a, you know, it's something to get me out of my own, you know, kind of logic. You know, I think a painting is everything but logic. When you get into logic, boring, flat. You know, so you know, so but at the same time, the specificity is also so important to keep the painting, you know, different from one to the other. But you know, I started, you know, what in front of me, I started map things, and always I have a, you know, idea what I want to do. You know, that's how you get started painting. Of course, we all have an idea. You know, I don't believe you don't have an idea. You just, you know, start to throw paint on it. You know, and you know, something get you, you know, get you sort of wanted to make this painting, you know, so that's a very important thing for me. But when you get into the painting, the painting has its own kind of a voice, you know, started to become a dialogue, you know, wanted to go this way or that way. And also, you know, the recent years, especially, you know, after my show at Haverford, you know, I had this conversation with a Faye Hirsch, who was the curator of the show. And actually, she named a painting of mine, which is a cityscape. She called it Riding the City. She said, you know, she saw kind of and recognized Chinese characters in them. You know, I sort of, I didn't, you know, consciously think about that, but, you know, as, you know, who I am, you know, my background and, you know, how I grown up, what I read, you know, those things, you know, it's all part of this, you know, so it's in a painting. And after, you know, she mentioned that, I thought, you know, that's a sort of a, it's there, you know, there's something I cannot, you know, avoid. And also, you know, there's a stroke, and the gesture is a really big part of big part of the making, you know, so, you know, that part has become more and more prominent. And of course, that part also pushed the abstraction, you know, further, you know, down. But I try not to, you know, make, you know, some kind of a, you know, rigid decision where to go. I really wanted to let a painting has a, you know, has a space, you know, to grow, to go, to take me, you know, to surprise me in a way.
I must say, I am still pretty confident looking at your paintings that I know what I'm seeing. It's not just an abstraction. I mean, I can say, oh, that looks like it was painted in Newfoundland. That looks like it was painted in Spain. I mean, I that looks like an Italian. And because you're very specific about the atmosphere and the color, the palette. You know, a painting you do in Florida does not look like a painting you do in Vermont. I mean, so you are very careful to get the place in the painting. I mean, you know, it's not just an abstraction, but so you're not completely abstract yet. I can still tell where you are.
No, I don't want to, you know, to lose the places. You know, they're very dear to me. And
Right.
yeah, and that's also, I think, you know, those, you know, that elements really, you know, give me a place to put my feelings and to put, you know, certain way to do it, you know, in a kind of a specific way. You know, I wanted to hold on that. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's what makes your work so interesting. It's
Thank you.
there.
Thank you.
Well, thank you both so much. I'll have us close there. If you had material questions for Ying or any sort of curiosity about her process, I can't encourage you enough to check out her workshop. You would have a full week of painting and learning with Ying. It really is such an awesome opportunity, and I'm thrilled to have her with us for a week. And if you just want to connect with Ying, shoot me a message or shoot Ying a message, and you guys, we can arrange some sort of connection for you to chat. And if you like jazz, let us know, because Ying's boyfriend is an incredible jazz musician and is coming with her to visit. So there's lots of opportunity to connect.
Actually, he's playing right now with the Mingus big band right now.
So we have to let you go, but can't wait to have you next week. We'll see you soon. Thank you, Charles, for being here with us. It was wonderful to hear from you both.
Thanks. Thanks for everybody for being here, for part of it. And I can't wait to be there next week, you know, to work together, to paint together. I'm going to paint too.
Yeah. And if you find yourself in Long Island, head to Greenport to rosyendpost Gallery. And that's it for tonight. Thanks for being here. Thanks for a great season of talks. Hopefully next season will be in person. We'll see you all soon.
Yeah. Thank you, Marissa.
You're welcome. Thank you, Ying. Thank you, Charles, so much for joining us.
Thank you, Ying, for asking me to be on.
Thanks. Thank you very much.
Bye.
Good night, everyone.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night.
Good night. Good night, Yings. Talk to you soon.
Talk soon. See you soon. See you in person.
Bye. Bye, everyone.